So have fun, Brock Purdy, when you don't have Christian McCaffrey and you don't have Debo Samuel. The road might be tough moving forward. And last night, Monday Night Football, the Eagles in a dropped pass on third down gave the wins to the Falcons. We'll talk about it next on the Rip City Drive. No bad times, only good times with you, Dwight.
I appreciate you saying that. I know it's not true, but I appreciate it.
Oh, man. Welcome into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here with you, filling in for Chad Doing again today. He'll be back on Thursday, and it will be business as usual. And joined as always by the Godfather. I am definitely not Chad Doing, as YouTube says, which is funny. My children were very upset with that yesterday. Shacker put on the overlay, as he should, but I probably need to make him one. But it just says Chad Doing on there. It's fine. But my daughter's like, he is not Chad Doing. Why does it say Dad is Chad Doing?
I don't think anybody'd ever actually make that mistake.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I am not skinny enough to pass as Chad Doing. Let's just say that. I got a little more rotund there.
Well, you got a little more hair on you too.
That's for sure. I got as much hair on my chin as he has on his head. You know,
Yeah.
he keeps it nice and high and tight, baby, high and tight. But no, plenty of sports news to get to today, as always, and gonna have some fun. Did see some fun clips running around. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed some wrestling last night. I know Justin had a couple wrestlers on throughout the week. That's the one bad part about being on the afternoon show, Dwight. I mean, you get the wrestlers who come through town. There's sometimes the musicians, right? They do the morning show circuit because they all
Yeah.
played when we were on. I was like, I want to get a wrestler to come in here and get to interview them for once.
Well, we've had them, and
You get lucky, but not as much.
yeah, I know. And nowadays, WWE is hard to get
Yeah.
because they're doing so well. Whenever somebody's doing that well, they figure, well, we don't need to do that.
They don't need the extra pub.
Well, they've sold all their tickets, so what's the point?
It is a hot ticket right now. That is
Yeah.
for sure. It's a rivaling those old golden era, Monday Night War days, the Attitude Era. But it's wrestling's fun, man. We're going to talk about it because, as Dwight said to me earlier, is the WWE going to have to send Moda Center a bill for repairs? They tore the house down literally over the on a Monday Night Raw there last night. But that's enough wrestling. We'll get there eventually. Got to talk a little bit of Monday Night Football though. Last night, Dwight, I think most sports fans were kind of fully expecting the Eagles to, grab a win against the Falcons, improve to 2-0 on the season. And, that wasn't the case, and largely in part to a dropped third down pass by Saquon Barkley there. And this is where I got to ask you, it's just like, why do in these situations do we constantly overthink what's going on? Because, okay, the other team has no timeouts. We're going to pass the ball, incomplete pass. That only saved them about 40 seconds, which was enough to run down the field and win the game when it was all said and
Yeah.
done. Could have just ran the ball. If you don't convert, kick the field goal like you did anyway, right?
Yeah.
But no, you overthink the situation.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people too who thought run the ball on third down, and then you ought to get with Barkley, you ought to get a couple yards. You might not get the first down, but you're going to get a couple yards.
He was
Then-
averaging 4.3 on the night.
I know. And then on fourth down, if you have to, you have the tush push in your pocket. That's easy first down. Maybe even a touchdown if you do that. I mean, the clock is your enemy at that point of the game. The Falcons are not your enemy. It's the clock. So you don't want to stop the clock. You want to let it run. And unfortunately, every team that tries to pass in those critical short yardage situations, either the ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage or somebody drops the ball. It seems like it happens so often, even though all the statistical guys tell you you got to go for it. No, and nobody's even talking about the Eagles going for a. The Eagles went for a 4th and 4 in the first half, and even with a 4th and 4, they didn't get it. That's 3 points they could have had at the end of the game. It might have served them well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's always coulda, woulda, shoulda too. I mean, if Saquon caught the ball, right? But it is interesting. To your point, talking about early on, fourth and 4, I believe it was, and yeah, you could have got the points, changed the
Yeah.
game, but you go for it, and it was interesting because they called it out on the broadcast. I don't know if you heard it, but this is what they were saying.
Touchdown. I have these conversations with a lot of people. It's seemingly every day how much the game's changed. Of course, the protections, the safety issues with the players, all of that's great. But the biggest change to me is in these situations. I mean, going for it on 4th down, you see it when you're on your own side of the 50-yard line here. I mean, there was a time you would no more think about going for it here in the first quarter when you've got a chance to take a lead. And we've green-lighted all these coaches with analytics.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've greenlit all these coaches with analytics. And then again, that right there was a 4th and 4 play. They didn't convert, so they didn't get the points. And I've always been like, where, the math comes into it. Now it's like, if I'm sitting on like the 50-yard line and it's a 4th and short, I'm pro go for it versus punt. Because I'm like, okay, if I miss it, if I go for it and I don't convert, they're going to get the ball back. If I punt it, they're going to get the ball back. Like, I'm just going to go for it. What's the difference in 30 yards to me if I'm just going to trust my defense? But in these, especially in the NFL, right? College, it makes a little more sense to me because the college game, you have so many of those, not to beat the dead horse, but the 49-14 type games, right?
Yeah.
Football is a buttoned up game. You don't
Yeah.
have a lot. Yes, the Cardinals blew out the Rams on Sunday, but you don't have a lot of those. You have a lot of 3-point, 6-point, 1 touchdown games where those field goals matter.
Yeah, and you look at that situation, the score at the time was 0-0. It was really the start of the game. Take the lead in the game because you don't know yet how the game's going to go. And it turned out to be a closer game than I think most people thought it would not be a close game. So here you are turning down a 3 points in the early part of the day that you're going to regret the rest of the day. It's crazy to do that. Take the points.
Yeah, I'm team take the points too, unless I'm playing a video game. If I'm playing a video game, then I'm team go for it all night long because no one can stop me. But real life ain't a video game, Dwight.
Yeah.
It ain't a video
Yeah.
game. And the Falcons and the craziness that this game was, I mean, when they did take the ball over with a minute and 56 seconds left, they had a 0.7% chance of winning the game.
Is that amazing?
And then they went on and won that game.
Yeah, and I thought once they got the ball back, which was the toughest part of the whole equation, was getting it back without giving up a touchdown. And they did that. It was easy after that. I mean, Kirk Cousins took them down the field so easily. It was amazing to me. It really was. It was just crazy. And he hadn't played well through most of that game. He hadn't had a good game. But once he got, and I was watching the Manning cast, and both the Mannings were talking about how once you get in that situation, it almost gets easier. And they were on with Matt Ryan, who said the same thing. It gets easier because you know what you need to do. The field spreads out.
Mm-hmm.
They have to cover deep, so you have a lot of underneath stuff. It's easier then. And also, Peyton made the point earlier, he would rather be behind by 4 points than 3 points. Because then he knows he needs a touchdown.
Right.
He said it gets real dicey when it's a 3 point. You don't want to take a big chance because you have that field goal you can tie the game with. So you got to be careful. Well, hey, you just let it all hang out when you need a touchdown. And as it turned out, I mean, Kirk Cousins made it look so easy.
What is it you're seeing from him? I think so many people over the years have been out on Kirk or, find a reason to dog the guy. He finds ways to win. I mean, he was good in Minnesota, right? He was good in Washington, and he's looking like he might be the smart pick right now in Atlanta. What is it you see from him that makes you like him?
I think, Chris, he's a real smart guy, and he's played a long time. So he knows dumb plays and smart plays, and he doesn't get confused on which one is which, you know. He generally seems to make the right play at the right time. He's accurate. He doesn't move well in the pocket or anything like that. He's a traditional pocket guy, but I think you can win with him, and you don't have to pay too much. What did I just say? Actually, for Kirk Cousins, you do have to pay too much. He's in the Sports Business Hall of Fame. He was a unanimous choice because of the contracts he's gotten, because he was smart enough to wait until the market was right, and he was a total clear free agent, and he got great contracts all the way through. He's made a ton of money. I just liked him. I think he's a good guy and a good teammate, too. I see every place he's played extremely popular with his teammates. Which I think it really helps. It's a big thing for a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they don't always like the quarterback.
They don't.
They don't.
You've seen. I think we've seen that play out many times before, and usually those end up being traded or moved along or nothing like that. And then it's the most important position to like. I think you can get away with not liking a lineman. You can get away with not liking a defensive back or whatever. But if you don't like your quarterback, who for every single team, it's just the way that position has progressed. He is the face of your franchise, and for better or worse, and he has the keys to the car. You got to like the driver, man. You got to have faith in him.
That's right.
So that's for sure right there. And it's interesting because Kirk Cousins goes out there, gets the win. He's playing well, and something's going down in Atlanta right now that maybe other teams should do more often. And we'll talk about it in the next segment, do a deeper dive. But it's interesting because they draft Michael Penix high, and everyone goes, oh, you do that after you just gave Kirk Cousins money and you're not even going to play him? Well, maybe that's the better move to do because a lot of teams are taking – and yes, I know Michael Penix is old for a rookie just like Bo Nix, right? But sometimes maybe even just sitting a year behind a guy like a Kirk Cousins is enough to learn the game because you're seeing a lot of rookie quarterbacks get thrown to the fire and not find success doing so.
Well, not only that, Chris, but we saw last year how many quarterbacks got hurt. You need two. I don't know why teams haven't come to that conclusion. You need two quarterbacks. Now, the second one could be a young guy you're developing or an old-timer who you could trust. You know, and Joe Flacco showed last year that old-timer you can trust can get you to the playoffs. And you just have to have the backup that you can count on. They get hurt too often nowadays.
Hey, as the saying goes, not enough people adhere to it, but it is that the most important position in football is quarterback. The second most important position in football is the backup quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
You got to have one, man. If you don't have one, the wheels will fall off.
Well, look at Miami right now.
Yeah, they need to get one. It's also interesting, too. Not only do you have to have a backup, I find it imperative to make sure that your backup plays at least a similar style to your starter, right? Yeah. If you have Brock Purdy as a rookie and that's your backup quarterback, but he's in Baltimore backing up Lamar Jackson, if Lamar goes down and you have to put in a guy like Purdy, you have to completely change your offense.
Right.
It doesn't work the same anymore.
Yeah, that's why it's good to pick up a guy from a team that uses the same sort of system. If they're a West Coast offense guy, it doesn't matter if they played in San Francisco, Minneapolis, wherever, they can adapt to what you're doing. Otherwise, though, you might have a problem.
Yeah, that's why make it basketball related. That's why the Blazers found success in 2019 when Nurk went down because Ennis Freedom now. Ennis Cantor, though, played so similar to Nurk offensively that they didn't have to change up anything. Yeah. So that matters. Backups matter. That needs to be on a shirt somewhere. Backups matter because they truly do. But speaking of backups and starting quarterbacks, I do want to dive into that with Dwight because Bryce Young, former #1 overall pick, being benched in Carolina, and a lot of people have thoughts on it, and so do we. We're going to hear him coming up next on the Rip City Drive. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here with the Godfather, Dwight James, having a fun little afternoon. I like these rare trips where we get to party together, you know?
Party?
Yeah, it's a party. Every day's
Did
a
you
party.
say party?
You know, I got to spice it up. Like,
Okay.
I love when we just get to sit in a room and be bored, Dwight.
Yeah.
See, you don't want to go the other way.
No.
It's
No.
much better to spice it
No,
up.
I'm in. Hey,
I
I'm
mean,
in.
it's not being on the road with you where, you know, our big life decisions are like, where are we going to go eat tonight, Chris? Because we're
Some
hungry.
fun
Like,
decisions there, though, in the
There-
towns we were in.
I miss that so much.
Me too.
If you and I could travel for a Blazer road trip this year, I would do it in a minute, no hesitation. Just got to you got to pick one that has good food. New
Yeah, well, I
Orleans
was going to
being
say,
one.
if we could take a trip and have somebody else paying for it, yeah, that's the best of all worlds there.
Remember, we were in Chicago, Dwight, around Christmas time, and I was going to meet up with Jamie Hudson, friend of the show, right,
Mhm.
and then her contingent of traveling buddies, and we were going to go have some old or traditional Chicago style deep dish pizza
Sure.
at this joint, and I'm like, sounds good to me, and so I walk and past you all. Out the hotel, I'm like, it's later at night, about 9 o'clock. I'm gonna enjoy Chicago a little bit. Walk past, you know, the Trump Tower and all that, cross the river, and she's like, it's by the Disney store. I'm like, okay, not a problem. And so I find the Disney. I type in Disney store and walk to the Disney store, and I start going through the Disney store, looking around. There's plenty of cool stuff. Like maybe I'll buy something for my kids because it is around Christmas time, and so I text her. I'm like, hey, I'm at the Disney store. Don't see you. I'm inside. And she's like, okay, where are you? I'm right outside the Disney store. I don't see you. I'm like, oh, I'm inside. I'll come out. And so I come out and she's like, I'm like, I don't see you. And she's like, I'm right outside the Disney store. Like, how do you not see me? I'm like, I'm right outside the Disney store. And then I go, wait a minute. Chicago's huge.
Yeah, wrong
Is there
store, right?
multiple Disney stores in Chicago? And there's multiple Disney stores in Chicago, and I was at the wrong one. I was, you know, about another half mile away. But I'm used to Portland. If you say you're at someplace, well, there's only one of them in this
Yeah.
town, and it's easy to find.
When you talk about dinners in Chicago, when I was covering the team for the Oregonian, trainer Mike Sheminsky, great guy, wonderful guy. He had friends in every town. He knew the guy that managed the Lowrys in Chicago. There's one in Pasadena, well known for their feeding the Rose Bowl players.
Okay, this is
So-
of steakhouse fame.
It's nothing but prime rib, the best prime rib you've ever had in your life. He said, let's go there. We go there on the house.
Oh,
Prime rib, maybe I can't remember, baked potato or mashed potatoes, just piled up on the plate. Oh my, and for free. That's the
Nice.
best dinner ever. Gosh, that was fun.
nice.
Thanks, Mike Sheminsky.
That's why I miss the Yard House. Portland needs to get one back. That was a nice.
Oh,
that
I
was a
can't
great
believe
spot
we
to
don't
hit.
have one. Why didn't we get one?
We had one for a minute.
I know, downtown, but they
Yeah.
left. Why don't we get a replacement?
Everything else is coming. We didn't have a Shake Shack. We didn't have Dave's Hot Chicken. We didn't have Chick-fil-A. We got all those now.
But Chris,
Bring the
what
Yard
did you
House
just
back.
say in the first segment? You got to have a backup.
You gotta have a
You
backup.
got to have a backup yard house.
You do. Absolutely, you do. That's a shout out. If I gave Jamie Hudson a shout out, you got to do a Yard House shout out for our friend Peter Sokach. That's his favorite restaurant
For sure.
of all time. It is a pretty good spot. Now back on track though. Let's talk a little NFL quarterback because there's some interesting stuff going on here, and I think a lot of it is centered there in Carolina, where they made a crazy trade, right, to get up and then get in the number one spot and draft Bryce Young, and he's going to be the quarterback of the future. They struggled last year. Okay, it's not working, so they rearranged the chairs on the Titanic, so to speak.
Mhm.
That's going to fix it. It's not working. Now they're benching him. They're going to Andy Dalton. They been in the league now for like 14 years or something like that.
Mhm.
And maybe this is the move they should have made first off, because I don't know if Bryce Young's the problem. Maybe the problem is throwing in a rookie quarterback into just an absolutely terrible situation where he cannot succeed. You're seeing it a little bit with Caleb Williams. You've seen Bo Nix struggle early on. Would have been more beneficial to maybe start Zach Wilson and let him see what's going on here. So I want to get your take here because, again, I don't know if necessarily the rookie quarterback is a problem. And I'm not saying all rookie quarterbacks have to go to the bench. Sometimes they're ready to go. Like it's obvious that Williams in Washington, he's ready to go. He's a Heisman winner. He's a good quarterback. He understands what's going on. But some quarterbacks need a little bit of time, and giving them that time is okay.
Yeah, Chris, I think it's okay to use them as rookies, but you have to protect them, and you have to keep them from getting embarrassed. And the problem is, like in Denver, Sean Payton's a veteran coach. He knew what he had to do to protect Bo Nix. He just hasn't done it yet. He talked about running the football. Well, they're not running the football. He wants to. He's trying to. But unfortunately, they don't have the kind of offensive line that enables them to do that. So Bo Nix is getting crucified. 2 weeks in a row now, he has not had good games. And really, yeah, it's his fault, but it's not his fault because you haven't done what you need to do to protect him and let him grow as a quarterback when he's running for his life all the time because everybody knows he has to throw. And it's unfortunate. I don't have a problem with those guys playing. You just have to have an infrastructure around them. You have to have the right coaching staff and the right talent in other positions to protect them.
Yeah, and quite often, I mean, the reason you're drafting one or two is because your team was terrible.
Exactly.
Right? And so
I remind Chad of that all the time. That's why rookie quarterbacks don't win a lot of games. It's because they're on one of the worst teams in the league when they come in.
Yeah, this isn't the NBA. You don't finish with the 10th worst record in the league and then cross your fingers that the ping pong balls fall your way and you get a top 3 pick, right?
Doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. And these teams, they're bad for a reason, and they have a lot of holes to fill. And it struggles. And it's interesting that Tom Brady made a point. This was actually, I think, a few days ago, and people are bringing it back up because it makes so much more sense now with the situation you're seeing with Bryce Young. But this is what one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time said about, taking your time before you're a starter.
There used to be college programs. Now there are college teams. You're no longer learning a program, you're learning a playbook. And the program is ultimately, like at Michigan, for me, that was a pro-style program. 5 years I got to learn how to drop back pass, to read defenses, to read coverages, to be coached. I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being a starter. I had to learn all those things in college. That was development. Then I went to New England, and I was developed by Coach Belichick and the offensive staff there. I didn't start my first year. I think it's just a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early, but the reality is the only reason why they are is because we dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play. It used to be thought of at a higher level. We used to spend hours and hours in the offseason and training camp trying to be a little bit better than next year. But I think what happens is it discourages the coaches from going to deep levels because they realize the players don't have the opportunity to go to a deep level, so they're just going to teach them where they're at.
Well, what do you think of that?
He's no question. He's right. No question about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because as I was listening, I was thinking when he talks about you're not teaching programs, you're teaching playbooks. Like how much of this ends up being a detriment to quarterback play in the long run? Like, granted he played well, but I mean Bo Nix, right? Sits there at Auburn and then transfers to Oregon, and now you got to learn a new playbook in a short amount of time. Dillon Gabriel is on his 3rd school, right? So how does that impact your pro prospects when you played at UCF and then you went to Oklahoma and then you came in and on a short off season for you didn't learn a program or your fundamental. You learned a new playbook to get ready to go out and win games for Oregon.
Right.
So how does that impact? And granted, Dillon Gabriel is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but there's a lot of other quarterbacks that might not be able to have their skills just get them through to the next level, and they didn't develop those skills that they should have by, again, going through the program, going through the depth chart. Because the transfer portal now, it's not about getting through the depth chart. It's about getting to the school that allows you, like he said, with the playbooks, to play.
Yeah, and the other factor nowadays, too, I think, Chris, is I think the NFL game is much more complicated than the college game is. The college game is pretty simple. And I've heard coaches talk about the idea that a play call in college, it's one sentence usually. And then you finish up the rest of it at the line of scrimmage or whatever. You watch these play calls, and you watch Sean Payton giving a play call to Bo Nix over his headset. And I mean, it's like 5 sentences long. You could watch him just dictating this play call that takes forever. The NFL defenses are so complicated that the offensive play calls have to be complicated too. And it's really hard for a guy to get into the pros. I don't know that the college background is teaching him how to handle that nearly as well as it used to. Yep. I just see that. I think it's just another level. It's a way different level than the college.
Well, there's obviously a lot going on. Not only from a just the knowledge standpoint and the way things are run, but just the skills standpoint. We talked about it yesterday with Caleb Williams trying to force balls into windows that were there in college, but they aren't there now.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but I also find this argument so interesting about should a player start or should he not, or should he get thrown to the wolves or whatnot, because there's been obviously a pretty good history of quarterbacks who ended up being Hall of Fame caliber, and they didn't play week one of their rookie year. They sat behind a quarterback and learned. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes right now. Alex Smith was in Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
I'm a 49er fan. Steve Young was sitting behind Joe Montana, right? Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre, and then Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers for years, and now here he is getting the start, and a lot of people think he's going to be a really good quarterback. So there's kind of this, there's far more quarterbacks, I feel like, who have been drafted high, sat behind, and then found success than quarterbacks who were drafted high and just found success because they got thrown to the wolves. We have way more stories of the quarterbacks who were drafted high, Joey Harrington's, right, who just, couldn't find it because they never had that chance to, again, I think Tom Brady's point right there, to develop. And how do you develop and learn those things when you're constantly changing offensive coordinators and head coaches and position coaches, and you never get a chance to succeed?
Well, and Carolina's I think, perfect example of that, where the quarterback just doesn't have the support and the backing and the patience that's necessary for his development.
Absolutely. Now, Tom Brady wasn't, the only person sounding off on these type of things. So for this specific situation, Mel Kiper went off. And I mean, this is you got to hear it because he makes a good point. I think the more he talks, kind of the more heated he gets about the point he's trying to make, because it almost irritates him. And you got to take a listen to this.
I think it's mishandled is the word, because when you drafted Bryce Young, you knew he was an outlier. Like Russell Wilson was bigger, right, taller, but only 5'10 3/4. That opened it up for the 5'10 quarterback. But Russell Wilson was 205, 208 coming out, not 180. Okay, Kyler Murray, because of Russell Wilson, became the #1 pick overall, different body type than Bryce Young. So you knew Bryce Young, not only short, but small, diminutive quarterback, needed help, right? Also continuity. You draft a quarterback. Everybody said he's got this great infrastructure in Carolina around him, right? With the head coach, the coordinator, the quarterback coach, everything's there, the senior assistant, everything's in place. And then you see him beat C.J. Stroud on the field as a rookie, right? If you take out the 3 games he threw multiple interceptions, he was 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks, okay? Had some decent games last year, okay? But then you go into this year, you change everything because C.J. Stroud's doing so well in Houston. We got to destroy this thing. We got to blow it up and start over because, C.J. Stroud's doing so great in Houston. These coaches aren't getting it done. So we bring in an offensive coach who was with Baker and others, right? Bring in a new pass game coordinator, new quarterback coach for Bryce Young. Then we don't play him in the preseason. We play him 1 series in the final preseason game against the AOGs. None of those guys are playing for Buffalo, by the way. They went 1 series down the field, and they're rah-rah, great, we got it, we accomplished everything we wanted to. I'll give you a little note. C.J. Stroud played in 2 preseason games this year. Okay, he played 4. Derek Carr played in 2 preseason games. Why? Because Clint Kubiak was coming in with a new offense, and Derek Carr, as a veteran, played in 2 preseason games. Bryce Young played 1 series of a final preseason game against the nobodies on defense for the Buffalo Bills. Does that make sense to you? When in 2 games in, we're saying he can't play? Yes, his confidence was shattered, right? Yes, he does need to sit behind Andy Dalton for a little bit. But to blame this on Bryce Young is ridiculous. The blame here goes to the organization, the owner, for mishandling.
Not wrong. Not wrong.
Absolutely
If
right.
you go out and you change all the coordinators and the this and the that and the playbook, and then you play him 1 drive in the preseason, and I think his point makes the most sense when he starts talking about Derek Carr. Like, Derek Carr has been in this league a very long time and has had a lot of success. Like, I think he's a good quarterback. I think people don't like him because he's kind of more of that quiet demeanor. And then the Raiders were kind of in shambles, but he's a good quarterback, right? And he's showing it with the 2-0 Saints right now. But even he, with his long tenure behind him, is like, no, new coordinator. We need to fix. We need to get out on the field, and he did in the preseason.
Yeah, and what could they be thinking of with Bryce Young, not to play him more than that? He didn't have a good year last year. There was obviously problems. So you would think they would want to get him as much time in the preseason as they could. That only makes sense to me. Why in the world would you play him one series and figure, okay, he's good to go? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's not sound logic at all.
No, it's almost like you're setting him up for failure.
Yeah, it is.
At that point. And even more so to Kuiper's point, like when Carr is playing in those games early in the preseason, he's playing in those games against the starting unit for the other team. Yeah, it might be only a drive or two or a quarter or whatever it is, but he's playing against the ones. You're not playing against the ones late game, fourth or last preseason game against, like he said, you're the guys who aren't even going to make the roster, really.
Well, and the worst thing that happened to Bryce Young was C.J. Stroud playing well. Now, all of a sudden, you're holding him up against them, and it's like, why is he playing as well? He was drafted second, and our guy was drafted first. But that's not fair either, because obviously the other guy's got better coaching. He's playing for a much better team and a better coaching staff. And you're going to try and hold your guy up to that standard? That's not fair.
And we don't have the ins and outs of the situation right now because we're not in Carolina, so we don't have the people to talk to. But we have seen it play out in the NBA many a times, which is the league you and I are most used to covering. But how much of this too is an ownership group and a general manager group who's like, he can't fail, because if he fails and we didn't take CJ Stroud, we took him instead, we got mud on our face, right? And now our jobs are on the line, so we need him to be out there. We need him to play, blah blah. We need to force the issue. And now you got a coach who's like, yeah, well, the vet's going to give me the best chance to win, because no coach wants to be on a bad team. They want to win. They want to. Doesn't matter. I don't care what front office says. I want the best quarterback out there because I want to win ball games.
Yeah, but then when you go out and change the front office and change the coaching staff, all you're going to hear is, hey, we didn't take him. I didn't draft this guy.
Right.
Not our fault. And that's what you're going to hear. They're not responsible for him. So they don't mind at all kicking him to the curb.
It is, it's an interesting situation. And then maybe if he gets kicked to the curb, they trade him, something happens. Look what's happening in Seattle right now. Not Seattle, Pittsburgh, excuse me. Because Chicago kicked Justin Fields to the curb, and now he's played well enough that the Steelers are 2-0. And you know what? He might not give that job back to Russ.
Well, and that's another franchise that took two quarterbacks this year.
No.
They have two quarterbacks. Yeah. They have Russ, and they have Field.
Got to have your backup.
I mean, seriously, I think there is something to that, and franchises are going to have to start figuring that out.
They absolutely are going to have to. You know what other things franchises have to figure out sometimes? Where they're going to play, especially when they're new ones. And there might be some good news coming up in the next 24 hours. Mostly been confirmed by a good friend of the show, Sean Hyken. I believe the press conference coming up soon. But WNBA expansion, and it may include the Rose City. We'll talk about it next on the Rip City Drive. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here with you, filling in for Chad Doing today. Joined.
Shacker, was that Foo Fighters covering a Jerry Rafferty song?
What?
Yeah. So Foo Fighters are now yacht rock.
I think you should keep it up.
They're doing a pretty good job so far. I haven't heard the vocal yet.
Great timing.
Baker Street, it doesn't even sound like Dave Grohl, but I guess maybe it is.
It's good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. We know that the Godfather likes the Foo.
Yeah, I like Jerry Rafferty too.
He's a fan of
old
the
days.
Foo. All right, the WNBA. Little news here. They tweeted today, a little bit of a teaser. You know what's better than 14 teams? ? And then a little smirk emoji. And obviously trying to hint at some stuff. Now, if you have been paying attention to the Rose Garden report, which you should, friend of the show, Sean Hyken did report 2 weeks ago that Portland has landed a WNBA expansion team and that the press conference would likely be held on September 18th. That is tomorrow. So that is what the WNBA Twitter is hinting at. So big news for sports fans here. I know I was having this conversation with Chad just the other day about how I get excited for stuff like this, being a father of three girls, right? I've taken them to Thorns games and they love it because I'll never forget. Took my daughter to her first Thorns game and she looked at me and she's like, "What? The girls get to do this too?" And that's pretty impactful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something the WNBA can do as well. I also know growing up in this town, I remember the Portland Fire and I remember Jackie Stiles and the fun stuff there. So I am personally excited for the WNBA to come back. Can't wait for this announcement. What are your thoughts on the WNBA in Portland, Dwight?
Well, I think from the vantage point that you mentioned, I think it's great for young girls if it sparks an interest in sports. Because I think playing sports, doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, it's really one of the great things you can do.
Right.
You learn so many lessons in sports, and it's unfortunate that a lot of women my age, when they were little girls, didn't have that opportunity, and I felt bad. Now, the second part of this is the product, the WNBA product. And I've said this, and I won't run from it. It's not a product that I'm terribly interested in. Will I go? Probably, yeah. Will I see games? Yeah, probably. But I don't like the way they play their game. Let's put it that way. They use the same analytics that NBA teams are using, and so they're shooting lots of threes. And that's fine, but in their league, they don't make many. I was looking the stats up, and this season so far in that league, the whole league in its entirety is shooting 33.8% from three, which is a lot of missed threes. They're averaging about, 7.7 threes made out of 22.8 taken. So you're going to see basically 15 threes missed for each team every game. So that's 30 missed threes in a 40-minute game. That's a lot of missed three-point shots. And anybody who's watched basketball at any level knows missed threes are not fun to watch. No. It's very frustrating to watch. The other thing you see is the turnover battle. Anybody would tell you that assist-to-turnover ratio is important. And the old standard was 2 assists for every turnover, a 2-to-1 ratio, in other words. Well, in the NBA now, it's much better than that. Teams do better than that. But in the WNBA this year, 20.5 assists per game per team and 13.3 turnovers per game per team. That's not a 2-to-1 ratio. It's too many turnovers.
Right.
So you're going to see turnovers and missed shots. Two things that I'm not wild about. And I also think, and people get mad about this, women's sports have become a political issue. They became one when Title IX was passed, which I was in favor of. I think it's wonderful that young women, girls, have the opportunity to play sports. They are guaranteed that. But that doesn't mean it's always entertaining to watch. Participation was the reason for that law, and I'm glad the participation is up, and eventually it will mean better players, better leagues. The more people participating, the better chance you have of better play. So I see the trend is getting better. I think it will get better, but for right now, don't count me among the people who are going to be uh, standing in line to buy tickets. Seriously. And I mean that with all respect to what they're doing, and I wish them all the luck in the world. But I'm just saying the product isn't anywhere near what you would expect from a professional sports basketball league.
I'm on the other side of that.
Are you?
I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't care if they're missing threes. I want to go see Queen Sabrina in Moda Center. I want to be there. I want to
Really?
see Caitlin Clark. I want to see Aja Wilson, who's having one of the best seasons ever.
Yeah.
Any basketball player, like she is LeBron of the WNBA. Aja Wilson is right now.
Is that a compliment or a critique?
No, LeBron is one of the greatest of all time. I don't care what you say, where you sit on the NBA, LeBron MJ thing. Aja Wilson's incredible. She's incredible. She puts up numbers. You can't stop her. You can only hope to contain her. Right. So I'm in the other boat. I'm excited. And to your point, though, I mean, the 3-point thing is, you got to understand your strengths and weaknesses as a ball club and as a shooter, because if the league as an average is shooting 33%, last year, the Trailblazers, which we all know, watching them, were a very, very poor 3-point shooting team. In fact, worst in the league, shot 34.4. So the worst NBA 3-point shooting team shot better than the league average in the WNBA. So you just got to know your strengths. And to the idea of this whole NBA analytics, it's creeping in everywhere.
Yeah.
You know how many high school sports basketball games I go to, both men and women, where these kids are shooting 3-pointers from deeper than they should because they just don't have the physical strength to do so yet, but they're doing it.
I'm telling you, I saw playoff games last year where I saw guys casting off and just missing and missing and missing. It was an incredible thing to see.
Well, don't worry. I'll keep your seat warm, Dwight. I'll keep your seat warm with the WNBA games.
Okay, well, I'll be there. I'll see some games.
Yeah.
I'm just not as excited about
Well,
it.
I am, and that's fine. Absolutely fine. It knows its market, and for me, I'm excited. And if you are, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait for the announcement tomorrow. Plenty more sports coming up here on the Rip City Drive. Hello there, Rib City. It is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The clouds are rolling in. Summer might be going away, but sports aren't, and we got plenty of sports to get to. First off, in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins did announce that they have placed Tua Tagovailoa on the injured reserve list. That means he will miss a minimum of 4 weeks, but it could be more. That concussion was scary, and this is going to give him time to deal with that, go through protocol, and see any of the experts he needs to as they decide the future of the star Dolphin quarterback. Also in injury news, in San Francisco, Deebo Samuel is dealing with a calf strain, and he will be out for, quote, a few weeks. Not fun if you're Brock Purdy when you don't have Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel to throw to. Chris Burkhardt here with Dwight James. Hour 2 of The Drive starts now. You know, WNBA in Portland, they are making a comeback again, which is what Heiken has been reporting now for a few weeks. Sounds like the announcement will be tomorrow. They should at least find a way to get Jackie Stiles involved. I mean, come on, just do it.
You remember the Portland Fire? Do you remember the Portland Power?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did have two different
Yes.
franchises.
And I remember the Portland Forest Dragons.
Yeah, of course you do.
Of Arena
Yeah.
Football fame,
Yeah.
which was a pretty cool logo at the time and a pretty cool name, too. The Forest Dragons.
I like that. That was that was the Spolstra name.
Yeah.
His daughter was involved in that franchise.
Really?
Running it. Yeah.
That I did not know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah. I can give you names of teams from Portland that you wouldn't even. I remember the Portland Adanacs.
the Adnax.
Adanacs.
And what sport do they play?
Indoor lacrosse.
Indoor lacrosse.
Adanacs, spell it backwards.
Adnax.
Canada's.
Canadas.
Yeah.
I was working on it.
Yeah.
The Portland Canadas.
Adanacs.
That's funny. That's oh man, that's a trivia question at the bar when everyone's doing their trivia nights. Name this Portland indoor lacrosse team. Like,
Yeah. Good sport, by the
Yeah.
way. And it was like hockey in that they had fights.
Oh, yeah?
Like hockey. Yeah, you could fight.
well, there
Except
you
they
go.
weren't on ice. They were on cement,
Oh.
which there's a little more damage done in those
yeah,
fights.
absolutely. That's crazy. But I do remember the Power and obviously the Portland Fire. Just bring back Jackie Stiles too. Get her involved. Why not? She's a legend for the short time that the Portland Fire were around.
There weren't too many legends given how long that team lasted, but
She had a lot. I mean, see, again, it's really.
she was a great player.
But it's
no
funny
question.
because everyone talks about like the what Caitlin Clark does for the game. Like, I remember the WNBA, and it's great because of players like Jackie Stiles. There was so many players in the league now and prior to Caitlin Clark that helped put female basketball on the map.
Yes.
So that's why I do I respect everything that Caitlin Clark has done. Absolutely, because she's helped put it into a stratosphere it was never at before.
Mhm.
But when people act like she's the only player that has ever put eyeballs on the game, blows my mind. Also, I'm bitter because had COVID not happened, this
Yeah.
would have been Sabrina because Sabrina
Right.
had all the momentum. Ducks were well on their way to possibly winning a national
Oh, I think
championship.
they were going to win the
They-
national
I
title.
thought they were the best team,
Yeah, they
right?
were.
And yeah, all that momentum halted.
They'd beaten all the other good teams.
Yeah. So anyway,
And Sabrina would have gotten her due had they been able to finish out that season.
yeah, absolutely. Now, Dwight, moving on as we do here. Things are getting crazy in the world of sports and NIL. And as is the
Yeah.
way of the world, everything ends up coming back to the consumer. Have you heard of the Tennessee talent fee that is going on in Knoxville?
Yeah.
If you have
Yeah.
not, for the listener, Tennessee Athletics is increasing ticket prices across sports by 10% and is calling it on their ticket, a talent fee. It's like Ticketmaster. Like, why do you got to pay like a ticket fee for something that's digital? Like
Yeah, it's a surcharge.
yeah. Here it is though, a talent fee to help pay for their NIL money. And here's the thing: this is Tennessee. This is in their SEC country in Neyland Stadium, with which 100,000 people show up every Saturday. They have no problem selling tickets for any of their sports, and they're adding a 10% surcharge to that as a talent fee. So now, what school is going to be next? And is 10% going to be the max or the minimum? Like, what? This could snowball pretty quickly.
Well, it will.
It will,
Because we know by now with college sports, if there's a loophole, they will do due diligence and ferret out whatever loophole there is and jump with both feet right into it. It's the same way that happened with NIL. It wasn't created for the way it turned out. It was created for student athletes to be able to find people who wanted to use their name, image, or likeness, and in return would pay the players for that.
right?
It wasn't supposed to be used to pay prospective recruits
No,
to come
no.
to your school. And that's what it's turned into.
It was meant to so that little Dwight Janes could go down to the Toyota shop on the corner,
Right.
and do a
Make an
commercial and make
appearance.
a little bit of money.
Yeah, maybe they let you use a car for a month or 3
Yeah.
months or whatever.
That's what it was meant for. It wasn't meant to give every school a bag that says, okay, now you can
Yeah.
give each recruit $100,000, and that's gonna that I'm with you there. That's not what it was supposed to be.
Quarterbacks making $1 million playing college football.
Can you imagine making $1 million as a 20-year-old college athlete, living on your own for the first time, ranking in dough? Oh man.
Well, some of the quarterbacks were making more than they made as on rookie scale
Yeah.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
Which I think I'll stick around for another year in college. They
Yeah.
weren't leaving early.
Why? Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you? The thing that cracks me up, though, Dwight, about this, let's impose this tax or this fee on tickets so that the consumer has to help pay for NIL, as if like, oh, we need more money to afford it, right? Which annoys me because we all know the people have been paying athletes under the table as long as the day is, right? They took away Reggie Bush's Heisman because of it, right?
Yeah.
And you had Willie Lyles in Oregon, and everybody's going on,
Right.
right? And then you have a place like Tennessee in the SEC. Oh, we need to do this because we don't have enough money to pay. When you are playing in stadiums that are bigger than every NFL stadium, you have locker rooms and facilities that are nicer than
Taj
a lot
Mahal.
of NFL facilities.
Oh, yeah.
You are the best of the best of the best, sir. Like what is going? But no, we don't have enough money to cover that. NIL should give us just a little bit extra. I think that's dumb for these schools that are just ranking in the dough for those athletic departments.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. It's just so out of hand right now. And I know there's people who believe that the athletes ought to be able to get every penny they can. I don't necessarily believe that because I don't think they're supposed to be pros. They are pros right now. They're professional athletes.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
They're paid to play. But somehow, and I'm an old timer, I believe there should be some governance, some sense of fairness in regard to how much each, maybe have a standard, a minimum payment for each player on your team, and then have rules on, how much more should the quarterback make than the offensive
Right.
lineman, and all those things that just don't seem fair. And some schools have money, some schools don't. And it's always been that way. The richest schools kept getting richer because they were successful. And I don't know, the playing field's nowhere close to being even anymore.
Yeah. And I do think in the long run, that's the way you should do. You have a air quotes, if you will, salary cap, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, no player can make more than X amount of money, or every single player makes this. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're on an NIL deal, this is what you make. And maybe you get a little less of this, school outbidding the other school. Because, again, at the end of the day, can teams like Oregon State compete with teams like Bama and Tennessee and Oregon and Washington? It's hard to do when some schools do have endless supplies, or at least it seems like it.
Well, there's even Southeast Conference schools who can't compete with other Southeast Conference
Without
schools.
a doubt.
The athletic director for Arkansas was complaining about that. It's like, we can't do this. We just can't compete anymore, and they can't. It's like the poorest state in the union, and they just can't come up with that kind of money.
Well, add a 20% talent fee to your tickets.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah, except those are people coming to your games who are scraping together every loose penny they have
Hey,
to afford the tickets now.
trust me, I went to a couple games this year, and it was like I wasn't going to go to the Civil War if it wasn't for Michael Shacker having a pair of tickets, because I was like, oh, yeah, I can't afford that one, babe. Like,
Yeah.
I want dinner this week instead. So,
Right.
and that's for that game. And there are games that cost a lot more around this country. I mean, look at the prices for this Ohio State game that's going to be at Autzen in a few weeks.
My.
Those things, I checked again last week. I found a standing room only ticket for $350. $350 for standing room only.
And these games last 4 hours. Can you imagine?
That's a lot of standing.
Standing around for 4 hours.
That is a lot of standing.
in the rain and cold, most likely.
Oh, goodness gracious. No thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks. Maybe I'll see what Justin Myers is doing. Maybe, is the backyard open at the Casa de Myers to enjoy a game? Because, yeah, that one's terrible. But I just found this to be interesting. Now you're adding a tax here, a talent fee, and, it's just, what's next, man? What's next?
Well, it's always been the same thing. The customers always pay the freight. Yeah. Whether it's the pros or the colleges or anything else.
You know how they do the spring game at Autzen, and they do the whole it's free admission with a donation to the Oregon Food Bank or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before it's spring game, free ticket with a donation to the NIL collective of your local school.
I was thinking about that. I think what's going to happen next is buy a season ticket, and then we'll give you a free ticket to the spring game. But unless you buy season tickets, you're probably not going to get into the spring game.
Right. Those aren't.
That's like the NFL, where they started making you buy the exhibition games. Never used to be that way. And they used to play their exhibition games all over the place. We had them in Portland.
Right.
Teams would move their exhibition games because the people living in L.A. or San Francisco or Oakland, they didn't want to buy the exhibition games. They already had their regular season tickets, so they moved them to other locales and made money. And that was actually good for the league because it created interest in other cities that weren't NFL cities. That was a good thing. But now, of course, you have to buy the exhibition games if you want to have season tickets.
Dumb.
They just throw them into the package.
I think you and I were talking about that a while back, about how I was like, how come you don't see the Blazers do a preseason game in Eugene or something? Take advantage of Matthew
Used
Knight
to
Arena.
be in Corvallis or Eugene every other year.
Yeah.
They alternated.
I think you said, didn't they play one in Roseburg a long
Oh, they
time?
played all over. Klamath Falls,
Yeah.
Long. The first game ever played, I think, was an exhibition game in Longview. The old days, they played all over the state. It was great exposure for the franchise.
I'm surprised they don't. Not surprised. It's one of those things, again, everything is so annoying because everything's all ruled by the dollar. But
Yes, it is.
because the dollar makes sense, you got to make it, right? But what's better fan service than going on the road and playing in communities that don't normally get a chance to see you?
In a high school gym or something. Yeah, I covered a game in the OIT gym in Klamath Falls.
Wow.
Blazers and I think Golden State or Sacramento. Might have been Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Granted, you're not maybe making your regular season money, but say you took Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence and a preseason game between those two teams at Reser Stadium.
Oh,
It's sold out. It's sold out.
Oh, in a heartbeat. Yeah.
God, they need to do this more often.
But they can make a lot more money playing at home.
Yeah.
Because you get the parking concessions and all that stuff.
Yeah, but and make a lot of money taking your team to Mexico City too, apparently. So
Don't even get me started on these games in other countries. Regular season games in other countries.
That's a tease. We'll talk about that later because we talked about the WNBA, so I want to talk about NBA expansion too.
Yeah.
And the NBA keeps floating Mexico City out there, which I think is a pipe dream, and it is just to drive up prices because can you imagine the travel with that? We'll talk about it here in a little bit on the Rip City Drive.
You may be. Good evening once again, everybody. Welcome now to the Mike Schuler Show. And this Saturday night, we are coming to you from Klamath Falls, Oregon, on the campus of the Oregon Institute of Technology, OIT. And they have been most cordial, everybody here. The Exchange Club, along with the radio station KFLS, who are the sponsors for all the big doings in town this weekend, and in particular here tonight, as the Portland Trailblazers continue to play out on the road in preseason play and again take on the Sacramento Kings.
Mike Shacker,
He's got all that stuff. Mike, is there a date on that?
Yeah, that was 1986, October 25th.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting locations for preseason games. Coos Bay, Pendleton. They played a road game, Cal Poly against the Clippers.
They played in, I think I covered one in Boise once, too.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And and they still, obviously, to try to reach out to those communities, they still do it during the summer. That's why the Blazers have the road trip that they do, and they hit the small towns around the state to give them a chance to see the Blazers broadcasting team and all that. But yeah, man, those days, that's just seems like that'd be so cool to bring back, but not with the dollar, Dwight, because the dollar rules all.
Sure does.
Well, some of them had different floors that could be harder on the knees, because I heard that during when I was archiving the games, because the flooring was different in some of these different gyms.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to the NBA players.
Right. But that's not as true in today's world as it used to be.
No.
You know, there's a lot of standardization now that's gone.
There would be probably get LeBron though. But no, that court's a little too hard. Not gonna play this game.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I just think it's a cool idea. I'm just imagining, home of Steve Prefontaine and Mark Helfrich, Marshfield High School.
Yeah.
With their little, if you ever been down there, beautiful high school gym. It's like a mini mat court.
Oh, they used to play state tournaments there in class double A.
We still do.
You?
We still do. It was 3A, I think, was down there last year, and we'll be there this year too. That was the first time I saw it, was going down there for OSA. I'm like, this is a hidden gem of Oregon high school basketball. It's seriously, if you ever remember old Matt Court, it's just like that, but it only seats 2,000 people, and if that, it's so cool.
I covered one of their exhibition games in Coos Bay because I remember Terry Durham, NBA official, got a ride home with me. He had taken a small airplane down there. He flew down there, but he couldn't get a flight back till the next day. And I said, why don't I'll drop you off at home. And, because he lived in Beaverton, somewhere in Beaverton, I think. Shout out to Terry if you happen to be listening. But, it was fun, too, talking referee stuff all the way back from there.
Yeah, I'm just imagining that cool gym, Coos Bay, and Scoot Henderson throwing a lob to Shaden Sharp in a preseason game.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, man.
I think the first exhibition game I covered, it would have been 1984. I think it was in Montana. I think it was. It was someplace like Montana. It was in that Big Sky area somewhere.
Wow.
But they played all over the place.
That is pretty crazy. Well, we were talking about WNBA expansion earlier, Dwight, and there's plenty of expansion just going on everywhere nowadays. And obviously right here in our own backyard, we hinted at it yesterday with the Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State jumping into what is now the Pac-6, still going by the Pac-12 name, but there's 6 teams, and they're looking to expand more. And you're getting more and more noise today. As we were talking about teams that would make sense, you're getting a lot more noise over the last 24 hours. John Canzano was tweeting about it and has an article up as well about Tulane and Memphis getting in on this.
They seem to be the favorites.
They seem to be the favorite. And all I think seeing some reports, haven't verified them, but it sounds like there may be meetings going on today or in the next 24 hours with those schools about the possibility of adding them because they're looking to get out of their deals. So, it sounds like the expansion is hot and heavy here.
Yeah, and that's good. They need to add a couple more teams now, and then I think just stay alert to see who else might be interested or might be a good candidate and add as you go, because there's really no limit to how many teams you've had. And they've already said no matter how many teams they have, it's going to be the Pac-12. They're going to stick to that name no matter how many, because the Big Ten has done that.
Right.
The Big 12 has done that. Why not?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just keep the brand. Why not? And it's interesting, though, the morning show pointed this out, and it was actually something I didn't think of because, we only think of expansion in terms of football because really that's the only reason all this is happening
Right.
was because
It
of
is.
football, right? But if you are expanding as a league and you add teams like Memphis and you add San Diego State, I mean, that is a Final Four basketball team,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Memphis, pretty good history of good basketball coming out of that school.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
A team that is, again, started to be rumored a lot more even before you mentioned them, really. I mean, you mentioned them yesterday, and now I've started to hear their names since you mentioned them, but UNLV.
Yeah.
That's a basketball school, too, right? A lot of history there. So you're adding some pretty good basketball schools to this if you can get some of these teams. And then, obviously, Memphis has been better on the football front lately and things like that. So these teams make sense to me for a team or a conference that is trying to kind of rise from the ashes a little bit, and it makes complete sense.
I agree. And the other one I would be interested in, you talk about basketball. Come on. Somebody's got to make a move and take Gonzaga in. I know they don't play football. I don't care that they
Right.
don't play football. We've already taken teams in that don't play baseball or don't have a wrestling team or whatever. Gonzaga is a national premier blue blood team. That's a big-time brand. Get them in the conference. They're going to make you that March Madness money every year.
Okay, so my take on this is, I'm right there with you. Now, I think that Scott Barnes and a couple other people basically said, like, if the team doesn't have football, we're not even going to consider
I know.
it.
That's
That's
crazy.
stupidity, Dwight.
Yeah.
Okay, again, no disrespect to the Pilots, but when Gonzaga comes to town, they have 4,000 people can fit into the Child Center,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you take Gonzaga on conference games down to Gill Coliseum, you're going to pack it.
Oh, yeah.
You take them down to San Diego State, you take them to Colorado, you're going to pack it because you're bringing in a top 4 team into these bigger college venues, and you're going to sell tickets.
Yeah.
You're absolutely, I mean, there are Beaver fans who might not make the trek down to Corvallis and go, yeah, I'll go down to Corvallis to watch Gonzaga take on the Beavs today. Why not? That one makes no sense to me.
Why
All
would
'cause they
you
don't
turn?
play-
Yeah, why would you turn your back on Gonzaga?
Right. And if you're Gonzaga, like, I feel like if I'm Gonzaga, I'm be pushing for this too, because the biggest knock on you is, you go through the easy West Coast Conference schedule
Right.
every single year.
Yeah.
The West Coast Conference. Like, don't you want to get your school and your guys get that TV time and that extra revenue and all the stuff that can help your school? Like, if you get that backing of that conference, yes, the Pac-12 might be down bad in football terms, but it's still up pretty good compared to the West Coast Conference when it comes to if they get another 12 teams and they get into these TV markets and they make money, right?
Yeah.
Don't you want, if you're Mark Few, don't you want that, and you want that publicity and you want that money and you want, I mean, and you do, if you're the NCAA and your sponsors, don't you want conference games, Memphis versus Gonzaga? Like, you
of
want
course.
that.
I would think. Yeah, I don't get that. The
Never
whole
understood it.
idea of just slamming the door on the whole idea like they're doing. No, we wouldn't consider anybody who doesn't have. Why wouldn't you just consider everybody? You're not that big of a deal that you can sit there and dictate about things like that. I mean, hey, we're open for business. Anybody that wants to join, call us and we'll talk about it. If you're qualified, if we like you, yeah, you're in. But to say Gonzaga wouldn't even be considered is cray-cray. That is nuts.
Gonzaga, saying Gonzaga is not even considered is giving away the entire reason all this is happening.
Yeah.
People are they're telling you that, oh no, we're trying to stay afloat as a conference and it's about the student, it is about football.
Yeah, totally.
And you cannot argue otherwise if you are going to slam the door on a school as prestigious in basketball as Gonzaga is, who is literally in your regional backyard for a conference that's trying to gain some semblance of that regionality back. To say no means that you have told everyone that this is only about football, and that's the only reason we've done any of this.
Well, it's about football and the money it brings in.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And I mean, seriously, all of a sudden, your TV contracts during basketball season are worth a lot more if you've got Gonzaga involved.
Yeah.
I mean, They play, and their non-conference schedule is really good. They play everybody. They're not afraid to play. Yeah. They'll go play Duke at Duke. They'll play, they'll go to Syracuse. They'll go wherever anybody wants to play them.
They do a lot of those early season tournaments, like the PK80 type stuff. So, yeah, this one, because again, when you do this and you say it's all about football, then you have to go back to like what Chip Kelly said, and the long-term answer is you go back to your regional conferences, and then football is its own thing.
Yeah, just break football off.
Have your football conferences, and again, people can talk about the travel all they want, but the travel doesn't hurt football when you're only traveling 6 games a year, right?
Yeah.
Like the other sports, though, absolutely it does. 13,000 miles is no, it's way more than that. Sorry, I was mid-video. 33,000 not miles for the Stanford volleyball team.
Isn't that crazy?
Traveling more than any other team this season.
Yeah, and the thing about football, you charter too, which makes the flights so much easier. These other sports, I guarantee you, their volleyball team's not chartering a plane. They're waiting in an airport for a plane half the time, and they're supposed to be college students. They're supposed to be studying once in a while.
I mean, heck, you and I, again, I always lean on our travels because we were in the airport so much. But how many times did you and I see a college baseball team waiting for the plane that we were boarding? All the kids with their gloves in their bag, just flying commercial like everybody else.
Yeah,
like
that's tough travel these days.
Yeah,
every flight's full. A lot of flights are late. It's. I mean, why put kids in that kind of situation?
Yeah, and speaking of Gonzaga too, real quick, I looked them up to look up their basketball schedule. Their non-conference slate includes the battle in Seattle against Kentucky, the Hall of Fame series in New York against UConn, and down to Inglewood to play UCLA in the West Coast Hoops Showdown.
Yeah, they're not afraid of anybody. They'll play you.
Yeah, they also got Arizona State, West Virginia on there too. But I mean, that's 3 marquee matchups against blue blood basketball programs.
And you wouldn't want them in your conference playing basketball. That's nuts. And they have a good baseball program. They're good in some other sports. Their women's basketball program is very good. I just don't get it.
Yeah, the nonsense about that too is you're telling me that Gonzaga isn't good enough for you now that you're expanding, but when you were really just floating, taking on water and drowning and you needed help, the West Coast Conference and Gonzaga was right there to say, oh, yeah, you can just be part of our league for basketball this year so you have something.
Yeah.
Right there to help, but now they're not good enough. That's crazy to me. I don't like that whole Gonzaga thing, but UNLV, though, you were on to something with that. The next question I have for you, though, Dwight. Oh, so say that the Pac-12 does add UNLV, Tulane, and Memphis. That's 3 teams. That brings them up to 9. They're probably going to want to at least get to 10. I threw San Jose State and Hawaii out there. Those could make sense regionally. Maybe there's another school you could get in there. Maybe Nevada, just because of the connection with UNLV and Nevada. I don't know. But if you do go get those other Mountain West teams, what does the Mountain West do? Right?
Collapse.
Does it collapse, or what if it's a Idaho, South Dakota State, North Dakota State?
Yeah.
Some of these other teams. Could you maybe dip into the FCS pool and take some of these teams? I mean, Idaho
if they want to come up.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. See, I think they got a really good thing going, and I always second-guess Portland State for getting out of that level where you have a chance to play for our national championship, which they did. Portland State was in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Why jump out of that to be just an also-ran at the next level? I don't know if that's wise. I really don't. And I've also heard, by the way, they're done taking Mountain West Conference schools.
That's
they
what
got
I've heard,
the
yes.
4 that they wanted, and there's not going to be any more.
Sorry, Rainbow
we'll
Warriors.
See. Yeah.
We're screwed.
Yeah, it's too bad in that sense. But so, I think we're looking at AAC schools, and you talk about even if they want to go to, what is it? Is it South Florida that's up for grabs? Kind of one of those South or Central Florida has been talked about. And then you go to Tulane and Memphis and then the Texas schools, Texas State and Texas San Antonio.
Right.
They're also being mentioned. So I don't know. I don't know who they're going to get, but I expect those announcements to come pretty soon, next few days.
Yeah, I do too. So we'll continue to monitor expansion. You're right. I mean, if you're those three teams I mentioned, Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota, I mean, those are teams that are vying for championships at that division. Do you really want to come up and almost start from scratch again just to and in a conference that, quite frankly, has an uphill battle to begin with? So,
yeah,
you're right.
They would also need some upgrade of facilities because their stadiums.
Don't disparage the Kibbe Dome.
No, but they, none of those stadiums are suited for drawing the kind of crowds you're probably going to need at the next level.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that Reser Stadium is big enough to support big-time Power 5 D1 football.
You brought this up with me, or to me in our pre-show email there, and Kerry Agers pointed out because the publication, the Oregonian, talked about the all-time record attendance was set, and it wasn't. And to be fair, in stadium, they said it was the all-time post-reconstruction attendance record.
Right.
They said that in stadium. It wasn't clarified in the article, but Kerry Agers pointed out how much basically Reser Stadium is shrunk, that the all-time attendance record at Reser Stadium is actually 47,249 in 2012 Civil War against Oregon. And I had no idea that Reser ever pulled a game close to 50. And then it makes me scratch my head as to if you have had games in your past that were over 45 and close to 50, why are you downsizing?
Yeah.
And what have you done over the years so bad to kill that forward momentum and put you in a spot where you struggled to draw the 30 that you can hold, 35 you can hold right now? That's kind of wild to me. I had no idea that Reser cut its size that much.
I don't know why they had to take that many seats out. I can't really figure that out.
Blows my mind. Because they want premium seats, Dwight, so you can sit down in your cushy seat. And
cheaper to build a smaller stadium, probably.
I'll tell you this, after going to the game, it is beautiful. I'll give it that. It is nice. It has really good sight lines, and if it only holds 35,000 now, it looks bigger than it is. So
yeah,
that's just.
You speak about losing capacity. Providence Park used to be Multnomah Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
What is Providence Park? What are they seating now for soccer? Like 22?
I was going to say, I think max is like 24, 28, something like that.
I think it's 24 would be about the most I've seen in there. Do you know what they used to draw for football in there?
No.
36.
36.
Yeah, Oregon State and Oregon would alternate every year playing Washington because they could draw more people in Multnomah Stadium than they could in their own stadiums.
Wow. That's the expanded Providence Park can sell out at a capacity of 25,218. So 25,000. Wow, and they drew 36.
Yeah. And they would pack it for those games.
Wasn't that also I missed baseball because wasn't that the largest or second largest hand-operated scoreboard in any level of baseball?
It wasn't in my lifetime. It's never been hand operated.
Not the one on in the outfield fence.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it was. I thought it
there
was.
There wasn't one in the outfield fence. Oh. It was in center field above the.
I'm gonna look this up. Well, I'm getting my wires crossed, but
yeah, I don't recall anything like that.
But it did have people running through outfield walls. So
it did. Yeah, a real shoddy right field wall
it was.
Made of plywood. Yeah. Which is good for Rodney McRae.
It was really good.
It would have hurt otherwise.
I'm surprised he came out of it. His head was so close to that 2x4.
I have that bobblehead, by the way.
Do you really?
Of him running through that fence.
That's a classic. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Plenty more sports talk coming up on the Rip City Drive.
The Rip City Drive is bringing the show to the Haven Spa Pool and Hearth in Clackamas Friday, September 27th from 3 to 6. Join Dwight and Chad as they broadcast live and collect new and gently used sports balls for the Boys and Girls Club of the Portland metro area. Get more details on the events page at ripcityradio.com.
we found out that technically we were both correct, which is the best kind of correct.
Yeah.
It was PG Park did have the large hand-operated scoreboard.
Right. That
Not
was
when it was called Multnomah Stadium.
Right. That was one of the renovations that occurred.
Yeah.
Where they tried to make it a retro kind of ballpark
Yeah.
and put the old-fashioned scoreboard in.
Yeah.
What they didn't realize, it was a retro park anyway, based on the smaller sized bathrooms and concourses and concession stands.
Oh my gosh! You ever go like to a Timbers game and go in at halftime? It's like don't even try going in the concourse. It is it's terrible. But no, so I was right in that the scoreboard existed, but the technicality was Dwight was not thinking of modern stadium. He was thinking of the Multnomah because it's only had like 20 different names.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep track.
The different sponsors over the years.
Yes, it is. Yes, it was. I remember going when it was Civic and PGE, and it was Geldwin for a minute. And now it is Providence Park. And if you want a chance to go to that retro stadium that used to host football and baseball and everything, ski jumping too, right?
Yeah.
And,
cricket. They play cricket in it too.
And
Yeah.
Foo Fighters concerts.
Yes.
But is the home to the Portland Timbers and Portland Thorns. Soccer is what it is most known for now. If you want to go down and check it out and go with 3 of your best friends, win a 4-pack to go see the Thorns take on Utah on October 5th, now is your chance. Caller number 1. That's number 1, Shacker. That's the number that comes after 0 and before 2. 503-248-0620. First caller through wins a 4-pack of tickets to go see the Portland Thorns take on Utah on October 5th. Caller number 1, 503-248-0620.
You know, Chris, they had a Beatles concert there.
Okay.
They had an Elvis concert there. And they used to use that as the staging area for the Rose Festival parade.
Okay.
And what I recall from my childhood is that, there's the big ramp up out of the stadium.
Uh-huh.
It would be where right field was in baseball, where you go up that road next to the Multnomah Athletic Club, and there were some floats that had a heck of a time getting up that hill, and
I can imagine.
they had to tow them up out of there. It happened every year. There'd be a couple they'd have to tow.
Wow, I can imagine. It's a steep little hill.
Yeah, but that's where so many things were held there over the years, and it did belong to the Multnomah Athletic Club for many, many years before they sold it to the city. I recall for $2.1 million. Wow. Which was a lot of money at the time, I think. But then the city had to pour a whole bunch of money into it several times.
I did a band competition there one time.
Did you?
Festival of Bands during Rose Parade season. We did a little field show down there. It's my senior year, so I did that.
Well, they started. When I was a bat boy there for the Beavers, and it was grass field, and they had a lot of trouble with the grass because there's an underground spring there, and they couldn't keep the grass dry, so they finally put artificial turf in. But they went cheap. Instead of putting AstroTurf in, they used another product called Tartan Turf. And it was very hard, very subpar, I would say. But I recall my good friend Bill Cutler, now deceased, who was general manager and owner of the Beavers for a long time, watching them put artificial surface on then aging Multnomah Stadium and telling me that's like putting silk stockings on a hog.
That's a saying. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's a good saying. It makes so much sense. Oh, veterans. The first time I ever heard you use that was at our old job when you were talking about them. It was all the rage because they were updating the video screen at Veterans Memorial Coliseum by taking the old one from Moda Center.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I heard you use that term.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. That's a good term, but it is true because sometimes you just a little bit of makeup and some stockings, and everything's good to go.
Yeah.
It's
boy, Memorial Coliseum has gone downhill a little bit too over the years.
Yes, it has, and it is a time capsule. That's for sure. You go in there and you're just like, okay, here we are.
Here's what it used to look like. Uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think what's crazy to me is when I go into that arena, I just go, they housed a professional basketball team in this thing.
Yeah.
How?
A world championship team.
Like,
Yes.
Okay. And like, how did Bill Walton even walk through those hallways?
I know.
Like every hallway is only like 6 feet tall. like how did he get through those hallways?
Yeah, it was a different time.
It's
obviously.
like no wonder he had some back issues. Like the dude had to bend over to get everywhere.
Well, and don't forget, this WNBA team is going to have to play there for a couple of summers while they, there's a lot of renovations on schedule for the Moda Center. And not necessarily in the first year of the WNBA team. I'm not sure when, but at some point, that's the plan as far as I know.
It'd be nice when the WNBA team comes that if they put them at BMC, they put some money into it to make it a little bit nicer, and they keep the Winterhawks in mind while they do it, too.
They better do that.
That would be great. All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go. Don't go anywhere. Plenty more coming up on the Rip City Drive. Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and that somewhere is right here in the City of Roses. And we got plenty of sports talk to get to still. In the NFL, the Miami Dolphins did announce that they have placed quarterback Tua Tagovailoa on the injured reserve list. That means that he will miss a minimum of 4 weeks. But keep in mind, he still has to go through concussion protocols and see a couple specialists. So a true timetable for his return is unknown. In other injury news, 49ers star wide receiver Deebo Samuel will also be sidelined for a few weeks as he continues to deal with a calf strain. After losing to the Vikings over the weekend, the road might get a little harder for Purdy and co. when they don't have their two most versatile weapons in Deebo and CMC. Hour 3 of the drive starts now. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhart here, filling in for Chad Doing today. You can follow me on X at Chris J. Burkhart. You can also follow my co-host Dwight Janes at Dwight Janes. All right, Dwight, what else is there to talk about today? There's only so many sports to talk about. We've talked about football. We've talked about basketball. Heck, we even threw in ski jumping in there as a little bit of a reference. We did hint at baseball, but we haven't dove in. And I think it's time to dive in, though, Dwight, because things are getting very, very interesting in the wild card and American League West race right now. The Mariners, they're trying to put it together. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 4 games behind the Astros in the West, but they still do have a 3-game set against them. So the hopes are thin, but the Mariners aren't completely out of this thing yet.
No, they're not. And it's kind of a surprise. They've picked up their offense. I've noticed they're hitting much better lately about their last 10 games that you were talking about. The bats have picked up. They're starting to hit for higher average. They're getting hits with runners on. They're doing things the right way. And with their pitching, they got a shot. They're only 2 back of the Astros right now. I don't think they're necessarily a great wild card candidate, but they've got a real chance to overhaul the Houston Astros in the AL West.
Well, you got the 3-game set against them, so that matters. If you even get 2 of those, if you can take care of the rest of your action the rest of the way, and there's only a handful of games left, but that still helps a ton. And you are currently 2 games back in that wild card too, so any win absolutely matters. It's all right there. What's going to be frustrating though, and it's already frustrating for a Mariner fan, as if, say, this thing ends and you ended up like 1 game out of the wild card, or he ended the year 1 game behind the Astros, knowing that at one point in this season you had a 10-game lead in that division, and then the wheels just fell off. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Absolutely is. You're not kidding.
Like, I don't know what it is. Like, what is it about the Mariners? They either have an offense and no pitching, or pitching and no offense. Like, they can't figure it out.
Well, they haven't hit well all season. They've had the worst offense in baseball for a good part of the year, and not a lot of power, not good batting averages. It's just, and they're one of those teams. If they need, if their pitchers give up 3, they score 2. If their pitchers give up 5, they score 4. It's been that way for most of the season for them.
Yeah, they're sitting there at, I just had it up, and then, of course, the webpage goes away. But they're at 617 runs scored, which you compare that to some of the teams around them, like the New York Yankees, who are the leaders in the league. 747 runs scored. That's 130 more than the Mariners have scored. But at the same time, the Mariners pitching staff has allowed 60 fewer runs than the Yankees staff has. The pitching staff is absolutely elite, like elite
Oh, yeah,
pitching
no
staff.
doubt.
But man, can they not get a run across the board when they need to.
Their starting pitchers are as good as there is in baseball right now. Their bullpen has dropped off a little bit, but the starting pitchers are excellent.
Yes, that is true. So as it comes down to it, they still have a chance. All you need is a chip in a chair, to use a little poker reference. And they got one right now. That 3-game set against the Houston would be huge. And I mean, I think things are fun in the Pacific Northwest when the baseball is good in Seattle. That's for sure.
I just like looking at Softy's X account, his Twitter,
His
because
meltdowns?
he is very emotionally involved with his team. And he gets so frustrated when they lose games, especially when they don't score runs.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me if he gets frustrated because he's usually going after Duck fans when he has a chance to. So
He
you
does
know what?
do that, yeah.
You know what? Just take it, Softy. You know, just don't got to be so mean
Take
all the
it.
time.
Hey, he gave it to you last year.
Yeah, well, they gave it to him for an entire decade. So go Ducks. Okay, there was the decade of dominance, Dwight. The decade of dominance. It was a thing. So I kind of hope the Mariners can pull it out, though, man. It's here's the thing, though, Dwight. You are our baseball guy. I mean, if they pull this out, say they get in, I mean, with the way New York swings that bat, got Baltimore, Kansas City, Cleveland. Like, do the Mariners stand a chance in the playoffs if they get in?
Oh, I think they do because of their pitching. And the playoffs, the weather gets a little colder, a little tougher to play, more pressure. Starting pitching matters a lot in the playoffs, and that's where they have an edge. Even on the Yankees, their starting pitchers are better. It's just, Yankees have a couple guys in their lineup that you're going to have trouble keeping in the
A
ballpark.
couple.
Yeah.
And the Blazers, geez, man, that's where my brain is. Mariners, though, 12 games left in the season. They got a 3-game set here starting today against the Yankees, then a 3-game set at Texas, a 3-game set at Houston. And then if they can pick up even 2 or 3 there against Houston, they end the year exactly how a doctor would prescribe it, with 3 games against the Oakland Athletics. So
They have a very difficult schedule to end the year, though. When you talk about playing the Yankees, the Rangers, and the Astros,
yeah,
that's not an easy assignment.
no, not at all. Not at all. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for them because I kind of want them to get in. I feel bad for all my Mariner fan friends who haven't got to see their team find a lot of postseason success. Like, I mean, I still think like the Mariners are just, let's go win 116 games and then lose in the playoffs after having the most dominant regular season. Only matched by one other team in the history of the game. Like, I feel like that's just Mariner baseball at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate so many years without playoff berth, and they've had some good players. I don't know. Mismanagement in the front office is a big cause of that, I think.
You only need to win 54% of your games. Is that what
Yeah,
the
that was the
said?
statement, yes.
So that's our Mariner update. My Red Sox are, they're dead in the water. They got false hope of wild card, but they're not getting there. That's all right. There's always next year. That's what I tell myself. Hey, I did cheer for a Beaver at that game on. I told you this yesterday, but I did cheer for a Beaver at that game because Jacoby Ellsbury was in the house. Go Red Sox legend, Jacoby Ellsbury. That was kind of cool to see.
Had some good years in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Made a lot of money, too.
Speaking of that, we hinted at this. We kind of talked about it a little bit, and then right before Brendan got on. But let's dive into this for a second, because this intrigues me, and that is there a coach in the Pacific Northwest that comes close to what Pat Casey was able to do at Oregon State? When it comes like the greatest coaches in Oregon history,
Yeah.
I mean, any level, high school. I mean, Pat Casey, what he did is just unprecedented.
Well, there haven't been many national championships won in this state in any sport at any school, have there? I mean, think
Track
back.
and field, Oregon.
Bill Bowerman at Oregon. That would be the one you could make a case for, because the Ducks, in Bowerman's heyday, man, they were a big factor in the track and field championships every year.
Yep.
And the cross country also.
Don't forget the Oregon Webfoots winning the very first ever NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that was a one-shot deal, though. That was
but
a
it
one-shot
happened.
deal. Yeah, that was the tall furs. That's what they were nicknamed.
They were.
But, yeah, other than that, I don't know. National championships, man, that's a short list right there.
I said this, and I meant it with all due respect, even though it sounds harsh. But what Pat Casey was able to do at Oregon State, he had no business turning Corvallis, Oregon, into a mecca for baseball.
Yeah, I agree.
Taking that team and making Goss Stadium like a highlight of the country for that sport, and to take and you hinted at this, and this was more so important. Those World Series, like Jacoby Ellsbury, those are local kids.
Yeah,
local kids.
Yeah, his pitching staff, his first pitching staff that went back to back to national championships was almost all Oregon kids.
Yeah, I played with and against a few of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Nate Fogel was a Centennial Eagle. He was there. Gundersons of the Central Catholic. They had to go against them. Mark Gerbervac, I had to go against him. He was Central Catholic. Like that. Yeah, but the thing was, he wasn't dipping into, I mean, yes, you're not going all local, but it wasn't to get his studs. He wasn't going across the country. He was all local kids and then coached them up right.
Yeah.
Which shows you his coaching prowess, because coaching matters. And he got him. I mean, it's just, I say this with a grin as a Duck. Even though I'm a Duck, you know me, how I love baseball. So, like, what he did for them baseball-wise, man, it's exciting.
Well, without that, Oregon wouldn't have baseball right now.
No.
They started because of the success.
They started back
Oregon
up because
State.
of him. And in the most Oregon way ever, they start up the program and go get arguably one of the greatest coaches of the college baseball game, too, in George Horton. And not even he could get it off the ground in Eugene.
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, hard to recruit to for that sport. It's specific, but what Casey did in Corvallis, man.
Yeah, and what he did was enable them to become a national power that could recruit all over the country, which they do now. They get players out of Arizona, California, Carolinas, Minnesota. They got players from everywhere now. Canada. That's the thing. They couldn't do that before because no one knew who they were, and they didn't probably respect their chances of ever winning anything.
Right.
And the Ellsbury team, when they had him, they went to the World Series. They didn't win it. They didn't win it till Jacoby was gone, and then they won 2 in a row.
But he still, that's the point, though. Like, even Ellsbury, like, still put him on the map, though. Like, he had him playing. I remember looking up the newspaper, the Oregonian, every day, trying to see, oh, so-and-so just committed? That's cool. And, oh, yeah, it was something else. But speaking of all-time great coaches, Dwight, Friday night, all eyes should be on Jesuit High School. They are taking on Oregon City Friday night, 7 p.m. A win makes Ken Potter the winningest coach in Oregon high school football history.
Oh, really? Who did he pass? Who will he pass? The
Jesuit won last night, and he tied it. I got to look up the names here. These names they're getting by me. So he put me on the spot. I just know he's about to break the record, man. That's incredible. 37 years, one place.
Jeez, that's incredible.
Also, the quarterback is a Jesuit right now? Trey Cleland, son of Cam Cleland.
That's right, Cam's
son of Cam Cleland.
Yeah.
So
he's got a pretty good arm from what I understand.
Yeah, that's another good coach right there, that's for sure. So
I don't think they pass much. They never have.
No, they like that. They like that power run. Right?
Yeah, they do.
They like that power run. All right, the music's on. That means we got to take another break. When we come back, we're going to dive back into our football talk just in case you missed it. Because, man, rookie quarterbacks, they don't get a fair shake. Chris Burkhardt here with the Godfather, Dwight James, River City Radio 620. All right, Dwight, you got me hungry now. Thanks for that. During the break, Dwight said, "You know what another restaurant I miss is? You're talking about restaurants, Chili's. Oh, I do. I miss Chili's.
There used to be so many of them around too, and all of them left at about the same
There
time.
is only
They were owned by one guy for the most part.
there is only one Chili's in the Pacific Northwest right now, according to the Chili's website.
Is that right? Where is it?
Spokane. Spokane has the only Chili's.
I guess we won't be going there for lunch anytime soon.
No,
It's
man.
confusing. I see commercials for Chili's on local TV around
Like
here.
I don't know why.
They run national ads.
Yeah. There was one in Eugene when I was a student down there, and my wife and I ate there all the time.
Good stuff.
Honey
man.
Chipotle chicken crispers. Oh, baby.
They had the queso dip for their
Oh, yeah.
chips.
Yeah, you
Oh.
go in and you get like the 5 for $5 deals, and because when you're college students, and you need the deals. That's how
Yeah.
the Applebee's had them too. But you're like, oh yeah, like it was like $10 for a appetizer, a meal, and a dessert. Like
Mhm.
heck yeah, we're getting the endless chips and salsa, some
Oh,
chicken
chips and
crispers,
salsa
yeah.
all night long.
Oh yeah, it's the chicken crispers, and then one of those like the lava cakes at the end. See, now I'm hungry. Thanks,
me
thanks,
too.
Dwight. No, we got nothing over here. Taking away all the good stuff. They took the Yard House. They took Chili's. What are they going to take from us next?
I don't know.
All they do is take. Okay, and give back.
They better not take in and out. They better keep adding.
No, they are. It sounds like they are. So you're good there.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time. Like I like In and Out. I just have a hard time every time I drive by the one in Kaiser. Like it's
too
not worth
crowded.
sitting in the line.
No, it's
Not-
too crowded.
Not worth it.
Yeah. We went by there the other day. We were going to stop, and Nancy took one look at the line and said, "Nah, we're not waiting around. We went somewhere else."
Yeah.
It just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
They got to get more of them.
Yeah. See, In and Out, I hit every once in a while, but that one just always I liked hitting on the road. It was something about the one not having it here that made the burger taste better. But tell you what, if I ever see a Chili's, I'm hitting it. That was my go-to. They were so good. You're right. See, it's almost dinner time, ain't it? We got to get out here and get some food.
Seems like it is. Yeah.
By the way, I remembered the name. I had to look it up, but with a win this weekend, Ken Potter will pass Dewey Sullivan of Dayton High School.
Dayton High. Yeah. Good coach. He was there forever.
He was there from 1965 to 2006.
Wow. You're talking about a dedicated coach.
And let me tell you, he has the all-time record. He's now tied with Potter at 352. And it's not like one of those coaches that you see, he's the all-time winningest coach. He's 352 and 325. No, his all-time career winning record, 352, 84, and 2.
Wow.
2 ties. The crazy part about that is Potter right now is sitting at 352 and 86.
Jeez.
So you take the 2 ties, make them losses. They basically have the exact same record.
That's incredible.
That's incredible.
Two
And
men that you have to salute for all the young people he's helped.
Oh.
They have helped over the years.
you think about this for a second. I only played a year of football in high school because I had a shoulder injury. So I focused on baseball because I didn't want to do too much more damage to it and ruin my baseball. And didn't even play varsity, but knew the varsity coach, head coach Chris Knudsen, right?
Oh yeah,
And
good coach.
he is now a member of the Oregon Athletic Coaches Association. So I'll see him every once in a while at the OSAA office when they have their meetings or we have our meetings with them. And you still see him. And even though I only 1 year of football, not even on varsity, hey coach, how you doing? Oh, Chris, how you doing? That there is a unique relationship between a coach and a player. No matter how long or how little you played for that coach. My baseball coach sees my wife at work. How's Chris doing? I ran into my freshman baseball coach out shopping. Burkhart, Coach Sachs, how you doing? And you just shoot the breeze and you have fun. 'Cause there's a special. So to think about the relationships you build and the young men you molded over 40 years at one school, just year after year churning through, teaching these kids the game of football, and obviously teaching the kids the game of football at a high level when both of these coaches are 352 wins, one of them in counting. that's incredible to think about the lives you impacted, the young men you built, and how many people called you coach until, the cows came home.
Yeah, no, my high school baseball coach, Jack Dunn, I've been friends for life with Jack, and we still have get-togethers with the guys who play for him at Wilson, Cleveland, and Portland State, where he coached to finish his coaching career. He was at Portland State, and it would be huge crowds, everybody showing up for Jack, and he's remained close to so many of us all these years.
Yeah, that's cool. So shout out to Ken Potter and a chance to make Oregon history. Absolutely. I also didn't know that Helen Hunt, one of her first early movies, was about an Oregon football team. She played the quarterback princess. You ever hear about this movie?
No.
She played Tammy, a young girl who just moved to Oregon and stands up against her coach and naysayers at her small town to prove that she's capable of being a talented football quarterback despite her gender. Based on a true story of Philomath High School, I believe it was. That was one of her early movie roles.
Yeah, I remember the Philomath thing, yeah.
So, man,
Huh.
I like history. History's awesome. Go Ducks. So that's a fun little story there. And yeah, so if you're out around Jesuit, you might be able to take in some history. By the way, just got a media advisory emailed to us, Dwight. Maybe you should be on that line too. But the Bothell family with a special announcement at Moda Center Wednesday, September 8th at 2:30 p.m. Wonder what that announcement could be.
2:30.
Family to host celebration of women's professional sports in Portland and have a special announcement.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
Top secret, isn't it?
Yes, top secret. It's the worst kept secret around. Speaking of worst kept secrets, this is on my agenda to talk about with you too. I do want to get to the NFL topic again, but I love people out here who are like, I really hope that if the NBA expands, they really do consider Seattle. Like this whole Seattle, Las Vegas thing is the worst kept secret on the planet.
Yeah.
And you see the NBA is considering Seattle, Las Vegas, and Mexico City. There is no way Mexico City is added to the NBA. That is absolute leverage to try to jack up that expansion price for those other two cities that have basically, been told, yeah, you're it. There's no other cities have even really heard murmurs of.
Oh, they're going to open the door for people to apply for those franchises.
Yeah, but
it's already done.
I would say, how many times have you seen a job posting, but that the company already had the person hired? They just put the posting out there for HR reasons, right? That's what that's going to be when they open the doors for expansion.
Yeah,
and there is nothing against Mexico City. It's one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world. A lot of pride in that city. But like I was telling you, what people don't understand, Dwight, is they think of Mexico, so they think southern border. And then I think a lot of people think that Mexico City is just like right beyond the border.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just like a little past Tijuana, right? No, A, Mexico's huge, and B, Mexico City is in the dead center of it.
Yeah.
You're looking at like 2,000 miles of travel for your closest road opponent. Do you think any NBA player is going to want to add that to their calendar willingly?
No. And they're not going to want to play in an area where the primary language isn't English. They don't want their family to live someplace where they have to worry about speaking another language. And they have the kind of leverage and power with the Players Association. They're never going to have to do that. They're not going to have to play in Germany. They're not going to have to play in Belgium or Russia or any other place. It's just not going to happen, I don't think.
To be fair, I'm saying, if someone wants to pay me a couple $1 million, I'll learn whatever language you want me to learn. That's not a barrier for me. That's okay.
You'll get those tapes and start learning, right?
The bad part for me, if I were to be placed in Mexico City for work, is that that cuisine is very, very high on my like meter.
Oh,
I like Mexican food.
Me too.
I like it a lot. And if I was in, the country that knows how to make it, I'd be having a lot of it.
Yeah. Those breakfast burritos would come in real nice.
Oh, yes. They? Yes, they would. But just realistically, with all the logistics involved, also, people also don't realize this one, but you think playing at Denver's tough. Mexico City's at a higher elevation than Denver. So, think people have a just kind of a little twisted view of Mexico and Mexico City.
Well, the commissioner pushes that out there all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just to keep them happy or what the reason is, but
I don't know. But
haven't we known for like 3 years it's going to be Vegas and Seattle?
I thought the announcement was going to happen about 3 years ago. And
Yeah.
I think a couple things have happened and whatnot to put it into a situation where they keep biding their time a little bit. But it's it's a 3-hour flight from Mexico City to Dallas, which is one of your closest opponents. San Antonio and Houston would be a little bit closer, but Mexico City to Portland, no one's going to want to add that to their travel schedule.
No.
So that's what I
Did you see there's a story today, and it's making the rounds, that if Seattle gets an expansion team, they're going to be allowed to keep all of their trademarks, all of their history and everything. And people are acting like it's a news story. But when that franchise went to Oklahoma City, that owner said, we're not going to co-op all that history. We're going to, if Seattle ever gets another team, they're going to get it. And it's been the story all the way along. They'll be called the Sonics again, I assume, and probably have similar uniforms and everything. If the new ownership wants to do it, they're going to have that. They'll be able to reestablish all of that, which is nice.
No, it absolutely should be. And if you were to bring back Seattle, let's just put it this way, Dwight. There's never been a push to bring back Seattle's basketball team. There's only been a push to bring back the Sonics. So if you brought it back as any other name, that would be just terrible.
Yeah.
You need the Sonics back, and you need the Sasquatch mascot back. That just needs to happen.
Well, I'd like to see Memphis move that team back to Vancouver, too.
You and I have said this before, but again, the whole Vancouver thing was right place, wrong time.
Yeah.
That city is grown crazy amounts since then. It also, having gone down there for the preseason game with the Blazers and the Raptors at the Rogers Arena, it could field a NBA team once more.
For sure.
And I would love to just have the ease of travel, having 2 more Pacific Northwest teams back again.
Yeah, it's a great rivalry. It is in soccer, and it would be in the NBA.
Yeah. And, of course, you can't always see into the future, but the NBA is probably kicking themselves going, oh, I wish this team were in Nashville instead of Memphis.
Oh, yeah.
Like Nashville.
Memphis is not a great place
Nashville's
to be.
the place to be, though.
Yeah,
Nashville is the place to be.
It's a hot city right now.
Memphis does have good food, though. See, back on the food tag.
Well, so does Nashville.
Central Barbecue and Gus's Fried Chicken. I mean.
No, you can't beat it. We don't have a Gus's Fried Chicken in this town either.
Oh,
They're all over the country now.
Yeah. I know. I went to one in Chicago. I went to one in Atlanta.
There's one in L.A. More than one.
Yeah, the OG's right there in Memphis, though. And it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. See, there's something about you, Dwight. I get hungry when we're on the air together.
Well, thank you.
All right, back on topic though. I derailed us. I apologize. But let's go back to this idea of NFL quarterbacks and rookies starting and not starting and getting a fair shake, because what's going down in Carolina is quite interesting. You got Bryce Young, who is now being benched for Andy Dalton, and this may be the right move. Probably is. Just let him watch Andy Dalton, but just you take this guy number 1 overall, you throw him out there, you want him to succeed, but then you pull the rug out from under him. You change coaches and coordinators and all this stuff, and it's like the guy is like, he has a good set of eyes, but you put him in a room with no windows and turn the lights off. How is he supposed to see? He can't. And now he has no way ahead, and now they're benching him for Andy Dalton. What are your thoughts on how rookie quarterbacks are treated right now?
Well, I think it's one more case of a rookie not being well supported in his search for his NFL identity. I think it's very difficult. We've seen it this year with Caleb and with Bo Nix, that it's really hard for the rookies to get traction when they start their careers. And you have to support them. You support them with a good running game, pass protection, good receivers, and a good defense. You have to have those in place. But unfortunately, for a lot of the rookies, they're only drafted high in the draft because their team stunk the year before. So that's the problem. And he's never been with a good team. And he doesn't right now have a coach who drafted him, a front office who drafted him. They don't care about him. they're ready to move on and get past him. I second-guessed the pick at the start. I thought the other guy was better, and he's too small, you know, and that's a real problem. Not only height-wise, but just his body build and his lack of strength, I would say.
It's true. It's true. And you talk about a team being bad. I mean, it's you have a little bit of it, but you don't have the same type of player movement and trade movement that you have in a league like the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you enter the draft and Chicago and Philly and New York have the 3 worst records in the NFL, but the Jets own the Chicago pick and the Niners own the Philly pick, and etc.
And there's a lottery where number 13 or 14 could get the number 1 pick.
Yeah, there is. So it's just like, no, you are in the top because you're bad. You are bad.
Yeah.
And so that's why this is why I am in favor of, if I have a top pick in the draft, I don't care how good Caleb Williams is. I don't care if Jamar Chase is the next Jerry Rice. I am almost always drafting the top lineman, because the top linemen, A, they don't bust as much as the other positions, and B, Joe Burrow's nothing if he can't get stood up. Like, if he can't stand up, if he's on his back all the time, can't throw the ball.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to keep your quarterbacks upright, man. I think a good offensive lineman's worth their weight in gold. Look at Bryce Young. Look at Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a freak athlete, but he's running out of the pocket constantly because there's no line that can block him in Chicago right now.
Right.
Got to have a good offensive line. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, you go to Denver. They can't run the football. So, you know, there's Bo Nix fading back to pass every down almost, throwing way too many passes for a rookie, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, and then back to your point too. You throw so many passes. You got to set up the run with them. You got to have balanced offense, and you got to put your quarterback, whether it's Bo Nix or Tom Brady, you got to put your quarterback in a position to succeed.
For sure.
Like, do you think Tom Brady is having great games if you're not running the ball and balancing your offense and giving him a line and putting him in a position?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Like, even over the years, I mean, LeGarrette Blount might have been the best running back that the Patriots had for a certain period of time. They'd bring a bunch of other guys out there, a little bit of tread, but it doesn't matter who was back there. They found ways to run the ball, to balance the offense, to give Tom Brady a chance to succeed. It worked.
Yeah, they're a team that caught on early to the idea that you don't need a premier running back. You need the guys to open the holes in front of them.
Yeah.
And then you take a 2nd or 3rd round guy, and he can run just fine through those holes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're music time. It's about time to hand out high fives. I must have missed this. This must have been you, though, but Ethan Zerberg said he heard us mention Terry Durham on the show and that it used to be his neighbor.
Oh, well, good for him. I'm sure Terry was a good neighbor.
That's what he said. A good neighbor and a great guy. So there you go. That's a good story. All right, but we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hand out our high fives. Chris Burkhardt here with the Godfather Dwight James on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, it is high five time. We'll go over to my left there to the Godfather. You got a high five, Dwight?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to give my high five today to you and all the other WNBA fans who are getting your wish tomorrow.
There you go.
I hope they unveil the new name, nickname, mascot, all that stuff. That'd be fun.
See, that's why he's not a hater, guys. Just because he doesn't like what you like doesn't mean he doesn't want you to go enjoy it.
That's just it. I'm happy for the people who are going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
How many people poo-poo guys like you and I because we like baseball?
Well, that's just it. If we get baseball, there's going to be a lot of people just.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, why?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Still need hockey, man. That's travesty.
I agree.
That's a travesty.
And it wouldn't get in the way of the WNBA either.
Heck no, it wouldn't.
It's played during the Blazers season.
Yes, we did gloss over that for a minute, but I do hope that with this announcement tomorrow, if they announce that they're going to play at VMC in the interim because there's going to be some summer stuff going on in Moto for renovations, maybe they put in a little money and elbow grease into spicing up VMC. And I hope if they do that, Dwight, they don't just do it with the new WNBA team in mind. I hope they give a little bit of rub to the guys who have called that place home all the time, no matter how bad it is, and that's the Portland Winterhawks. I mean, if it wasn't for them, the lights would probably be turned off.
That's what I was going to say. The Hawks have kept that building open and alive.
Yeah, so they deserve a little bit of a rub there, too. My high five, though, is going to go usually it would be going all the way across the Pacific to Osaka, Japan, but now it gets to go to Mom's house because my brother's in town. He's not in Japan right now. He's in town. I'm excited.
I bet you are.
I only
get
to see him there? Like that was what Mom was calling for. She's like, "Your brother's here. He's awake. Are you gonna come? You can come over for a little bit if you want." I was like, "The girls are at cheer practice. I'm at work, but I'll see what they want to do after I pick them up." And Mom lives, like 5 minutes from me, so it's not like it'd be an all night thing.
Perfect.
But yeah, I only see my brother once a year, sometimes more, depending on when he can get out. So
yeah, he doesn't. Does he come home for the holidays? Or?
When he can, but we've had plenty of holidays without him. He's usually, got to be at work and has his vacation time planned for different things because he's also a social butterfly, so he can only get out so many times, and he has friends pulling him one way, family pulling him the other, and he's actually here for a friend's wedding, so gonna do that and then hang out with him.
Where?
He lives in Osaka, Japan.
What's he do there?
He's done a bunch of different things. He was working with the hotels for a little bit. He was working with education, teaching Japanese students English as a second language. I believe he's working with students again right now, doing some other things. All I know is I don't think he's ever coming back. He loves it over there.
Huh.
He always liked the Japanese culture, and so he's over there living his life, man. And he just. The only bad part is when you're over there and you're living there permanently, and you come back to America, you get reverse culture shock.
Yeah. Have you visited him over there?
I have not, just because it might cost my firstborn, and I do enjoy my firstborn.
Yeah.
Don't want to sell her to go see him, but it is on my list. I mean, I would love to go over there and surprise him and visit. I want to go to Japan and take in both some New Japan Pro Wrestling, and more specifically, I really want to take in some Japanese baseball.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
I got a Hiroshima Carp headband because I told him one day when he was first moved over there, bring me back Japanese baseball memorabilia. So he brought me back a Hiroshima Carp. I'm like, oh, they're my new favorite Japanese league baseball team, and I would love to go watch baseball over there. That's a baseball bucket list item.
Yeah, I've told my wife I'd love to go to Japan, but has to be during baseball season.
Yeah, I want to go over there. I want to experience a bullet train.
Yeah, I've done the high-speed train in Europe, but I would love to do that in Japan too. Everything's so clean and nice over there. I've heard so many great stories about going to Japan. The only thing I hear is it gets crowded.
Yeah, yep. But my brother loves it. Everyone's nice. You don't have to worry about things you have to worry about here. I'll never forget, he was on the phone with my mom one day, and he's sitting there on FaceTime with her, and then he's like, "Oh no, Mom," and she's like, "What?" She's like, I left my earbuds, my AirPods on the bench in the park." And she goes, "Well, you better go get them." And he goes, It's not America. They'll be there tomorrow. And he just kept walking.
Wow.
And he said he showed up the next day and his AirPods were right there because he was like halfway home and it wasn't a short walk.
Yeah.
He was halfway home. He's like, I'm not turning around. If they're gone, they're gone. But not in Japan. Turned around and like, nope, they were still there. They were still there.
That they say, I've heard somebody say they left a suitcase out with a lot of valuable stuff in it. Went back the second day, the next day, and it was still there right where they left it.
Yeah. But I really do want to get back there, though, Dwight. Having Asian blood, too. I mean, I want that food. See, everything's about food with me. You want to be a friend of Chris Burkhart's, give him good food. Give him good food. Tell him all the good restaurants. We'll have some fun. So
pretty good
but
sushi over there.
Oh, I can bet. I bet.
That's all I hear about. Yeah.
Funny you bring that up. I didn't get lunch today, but that's what I'm craving is sushi right now.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Love it.
I like spam musubi. That counts.
Yeah. Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Come on. An islander. I like spam is a staple of the diet, man.
I know.
Spam musubi. Just I'll slice it up, put some brown sugar on it, put it in the pan, fry it up, have it just like that. Cook it in the oven with pineapple. That's the way to go. Loco Mocos. That's not pineapple or that's not spam, but that's still good Hawaiian food.
Loco Moco. I love that.
A Loco Moco's good.
Yeah.
That always hits the spot. You hungry yet, Shacker?
Oh yeah, but I'm not gonna buy any food. I got good food waiting for me when I get home.
Hey, I owe you a T-bone or some Philly cheesesteak meat is what I owe you for giving me some.
Yeah, because you'll slice it yourself. Really
I'll slice
thin.
it for you.
Paper thin. You can see
get
through
you taken
it.
care of the original steer meat market. So
Yeah, watching the Eagles last night got me hungry for a Philly cheesesteak.
I had a Philly in Philly. That's good.
Was it Wawa or Geno's?
It depends on which one you go to. There's so many places now
There are
selling
so
the
many
cheesecake sandwiches. Yeah.
There's so many. It's like in the movies too. Everyone has a sign that's like the best Philly in Philly.
Well, and everybody's got their favorite, you know, and they won't budge off their favorite. So
it's like in the movies, this is Dwight's original Philly house,
Yeah.
not to be confused with
First
the
one.
other Dwight's original.
Yeah.
That's just an imposter.
Right.
Get down here, have a Philly though. That's where it's at. Remember when I had a slice of New York style pizza in New York, and that one was where my mind was blown because I was like, "Whoa, this slice of pizza is the size of my torso." like it was a big old fat slice.
Tastes
of pizza.
different in New York too.
Yeah.
They say it's the water. That's what Chad's point
Well,
of view is.
that matters. So Kona Brewing, right? I love their beer. But if you ever have it in Hawaii at the Kona Brewery, it tastes different because in the States, to save money, if you pay attention, the Kona beer that you get here is brewed in Portland or like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So it's brewed with local water. But the Kona beer, when you have it at the brewery in Kona, is brewed with the water from Hawaii. So it tastes different. So the water making your cuisine taste different is a real thing. It's a real thing. And it tastes better in Kona, let me tell you what. Probably because it's off the taps, not in a can. But
Yeah, that would.
Dwight, we have to take it to the streets.
It's that time.
It is that
Even
time.
though the streets are crowded.
Another fast show. Hopefully you all get home quick. Here, traffic jams are out there. But you know what? That's Portland nowadays. We'll be back tomorrow. Then Chad will be back the rest